Hi, everybody.
Hi, freaky friends.
So, it's really cold outside.
You gotta say who you are.
I'm Margaret.
I'm Colleen.
And
we're the Cousins Weird.
We're together. This is our only the second time we've done a live together.
Yeah.
For Terrible Trends. So
we tried to do a live when we were apart, but it didn't work.
It was really weird. But it's my trend this week, and I'm doing something I kind of stumbled onto that I didn't realize was a thing.
I'm scared.
Yeah, you should be. So a little backstory is about tobacco. The old ciggy cigs. Well, tobacco itself. It can be traced back to religious ceremonies of the Mayans in the 1st century in Central America. And then from there it kind of spread out, and it was used by indigenous people in North and South America between 470 and 630 AD. And it was used to treat like asthma, fevers, insect bites and burns. You know, it was used more medicinally and in religious ceremonies. So, you know, it wasn't like just smoked to smoke a ciggy, you know.
Right.
They didn't use it like what it's used for now. And then after the colonization from Europe to the United States now, we're talking trade started between Virginia and England, and tobacco was brought to England, and it reached Europe in about the 16th century. So by the 18th century, they started to use it not so much for medicine, but more for enjoyment and more like a drug. Like they smoked it for the nicotine, for
right.
It was like a stimulant kind of thing. Many believed that the stimulating properties of nicotine would stimulate the heartbeat, which would encourage respiration, and that the smoke would dry up the moisture in a recently drowned person.
What?
Yes, so they were talking, this is in the 18th century, right? And this could have been accomplished by blowing the tobacco smoke into the drowned person's nose and mouth. But no. Why would they do that when they could shove a tube up their butt?
What?
And blow smoke in their rectum.
What?
I kid you not. Otherwise known as the tobacco smoke enema.
What?
I'm not.
Why do they think enemas cured everything?
If you drown in the river, they would pull you out and stick a tube in your butt and blow tobacco smoke to resuscitate you.
Please never do that. Let me die.
Through your butt.
I should be resuscitated through my butt. I don't care if that works. Yes. Let me just croak. I don't want it.
This was seen as a life-saving therapy.
Did they have proof of this?
And they would treat ailments such as respiratory failure, abdominal cramps.
Oh, God.
Lethargy.
Oh, you're blowing things on my butt. It's going to give me more gas. That's going to help.
Yeah. Please just let me die, too. Yeah. I'm right there with you. Headaches, cholera, and typhoid fever. And, like, the early devices they used looked more like a pipe.
Okay.
And they would stick the long end in your butt, and they'd cover the
wait a minute.
The lit end and blow through it. So
wait a minute, your lips were on the other end of that. So part of it's in someone's bum, and the other part's on your mouth.
The problem with devices like this is there was no like one-way valve.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So if you're trying to treat somebody who has typhoid or cholera, and you accidentally inhale.
No!
You could respirate the cholera spores into your body and die.
You could inhale shit!
Yes! And honestly, the person that you're trying to save would die too, because it's not going to help them.
Not when you're sucking air They won't do it.
It will do nothing.
No.
Definitely not.
Why would they even think this was a good idea?
No. I don't know who invented this. I don't understand. And eventually they ended up making a tube longer, and then they made bellows. So
like you do
for your
with
fire,
stove?
yeah, with a tube, and then they would pumping air into your butt.
I know what to do. We've had an awful lot of drownings lately. You know what I think will work? Let's shove a pipe up their butt and blow smoke.
Oh, it gets even worse. It gets worse than that.
It can't be worse.
Yes. Okay, so in the 1780s, there were two men who founded this Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned was the name of the society. That whole long thing.
That's the name.
Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned, which eventually turned into the Royal Humane Society. And yes, they installed resuscitation kits, which were like rowboats with these devices in them.
Ass smoke kit.
Yes. Yes. Along the River Thames in England, like positioned along them so that anybody who was drowned, they could row out to get them and bring them back and shove this thing in their butt. But when they developed the bellows, they said, well, sometimes you could do the smoke in their mouth and sometimes in their butt, so they could do it in your butt and then
wait, just let me die. I'm gonna die of E. coli.
And then do it in your
that.
Yeah, you could do it in your mouth or your butt, and sometimes
Or
both.
both. So let's just shove it in your butt, then in your mouth, then in your butt, then in your mouth.
If I'm choking to death and you're gonna blow tobacco smoke in my
I'm
mouth,
dead.
I think I would die.
Here, let's shove whatever's in your throat further in.
I'm so glad they don't teach this in life-saving classes now,
Because here's a good idea. Let's blow smoke into your lungs and you can't breathe already. So let's just go do that too, because that works.
Yes, and this Royal Humane Society, they commissioned 2 paintings to be made for the society, and we'll post pictures of these.
I can only imagine.
To advertise their good works to stimulate people to donate money to them. And one of them was it was a painting of people in a boat fishing a drowned person into the boat, and the next one it shows this man in a bed awake, like happy. And I'm like, he just had a pipe shoved in his butt. He doesn't look happy in the painting.
He's not happy. He's like, no thank you,
No,
sir.
no thank you. No.
You had the audacity.
At least they started to use bellows and not their...
Well, why you'd ever want to...
But can you imagine the force? Because I have had a wood stove and you use bellows and they have forceful air into them.
That's like, might as well just shoot some water up there at that point.
Tobacco smoke! It has to be tobacco smoke.
Yeah, but you're with such force, it could have been water too. You know what I mean? Like, it's so pressurized.
It's gonna resuscitate a dead person.
No, it's gonna be really bad gas.
Yeah, God. That's where the term to blow smoke up your ass came from. Is literally tobacco smoke enemas.
Don't go blowing smoke up my ass.
Exactly. Don't. Ever. Ever. Don't ever do it. Well, in the early 1800s, a man named Daniel Legare demonstrated that anal insufflation, because that's what they call this, that's a name, of tobacco afforded no value in resuscitation. Thank you, Daniel Legare, for everything you've done for science so much.
If you've done nothing else,
and
you need a reward for that.
And there were other men doing studies on animals that showed that nicotine was toxic, because it is.
Yeah.
Pesticides are made from nicotine.
Yeah, we still have it in things.
I know. And so it started to lose favor in like the early to mid 1800s. Thank God. So they stopped being used, in the mid. So
did you say Jessica And we're live right now, so we have people commenting. And she says, perhaps blowing smoke up the ass and then their mouth stimulated the gag reflex, and water was released from the lungs. You know what?
That's probably what happened.
That probably did work. I bet that did work. Yeah.
To think, and they found an actual photograph of a kit from like a museum of an anal sufflation. And it's like anal inflation. That's what it should be called. But it's anal sufflation is what they called it. And it's like a bellows, and it has all these different sized tips, and I'm like, oh god.
Because look at their beehole to see.
Yes, and there's like all these like tubes that are like probably made from intestines of animals.
Oh god.
And, like ivory tips. I'm like, that just looks awful.
I don't want any of that. No, thank you. Let me drown. I'm fine.
It just amazes me that was what people did.
I want to know what their scientific proof was that this was going to work. Like, what did they test? How did they say, okay, this is going to work?
It's probably like, I don't understand.
I don't understand it. Like, what happened that made me think that works? One
of the articles said, like, back then, like, if you're talking like 1500s, 1600s, they treated the humors of the body like black bile and yellow bile and like dry humors and wet humors, and if somebody drowned, they had wet humors and black bile. And so like tobacco was dry and warm, so if they were cold and wet, the tobacco would warm them up and dry them out. And that's like the thought. I'm like, well, why would you stick it in their butt?
Yes.
I just don't understand.
I think there's a bunch of these people just all had a kink.
I think they did.
And that's what it was all about. They were like, how can I stick things in people's butts and get away with it?
Hey, Kellogg, it was his thing. Yeah. He liked yogurt enemas, though.
Let me tell you, though, back in the day, enemas cured it. You stub your toe, let's give you an enema. Or a leech. Enemas or leeches, one or the other. You know, well, they did other things to women when they're hysterical. We won't get into that.
People still do yogurt enemas. I worked at the health food store, and that was
they also put them in their
coffee enemas is a thing.
Yeah, I watched a whole Strange Addiction episode about these people that were so addicted to the coffee enema they had to work from home, and they give every hour they go in and do coffee enemas.
I can't imagine how awful that must feel.
And then, girls, plain yogurt and the hoo-hoo supposed to cure a yeast infection or something, isn't it?
I don't know.
Garlic. I don't know. You worked at a health food store. You should know that
I'm
stuff.
sure people have put all kinds of stuff in any kind of...
Can we get an emergency room nurse to come on and tell us all the things that they found?
Everything, everywhere.
Everything, everywhere in a person.
Yeah.
That's what I want. We need to have a Terrible Trends episode. We get a nurse from an emergency room that tells us everything they found inside the human body.
For sure.
That shouldn't be in the human body. Everything. That's what I want. Maybe we'll get one. If you're a nurse out there and you've experienced these things, please let us know, and we'll have you on our show to talk about it.
So, thank God that is a trend that is no longer in.
Yes. No more blowing smoke up my ass. So,
don't blow
that
smoke
term,
up your ass.
I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It's like, I'm not kidding you, I thought. Or I'm not trying to make you believe something that's not true, because that would be something that's not true, and they made people believe it.
Right.
So that's where they kind of got
I think that's like, because they did it, because like, oh, you're drowning, we'll blow smoke in your ass and make you come back to life, and it didn't work. So when you say it was, oh, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, it's like, I'm not saying something to you that's false. Isn't that what that means? I think, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I love these Terrible Trends episodes.
Me too.
Because they're fun. They're really funny.
They're not like my
depressing last episode.
This week was so depressing. So yeah, get ready for that.
No, it's not depressing. Well, yeah,
it was depressing.
It was sad and weird and bizarre, but
interesting.
Very interesting. So you'll enjoy it. And if you're already listened to it, then you know what I'm talking about. Because
for sure,
you're gonna hear this in the future, which is blowing my mind right now on how to say things, because you're watching the live now, but we're recording it and releases it on Thursday. So, like, you're going to hear it in the future, but you've already heard the one that has